Mimi naitwa Swift9 Graffiti, and I'm a graffiti artist from Nairobi, Kenya. So leo hii piece ndio namalizia. Basically kitu nafanya saizi ni kuongeza few highlights here and there. Hii piece ni kutoka kwa brainstorming session tulikuwa nayo 2 days ago. Tulikuwa tuna deal na 7 different themes.
Femicide is what brings us here together. Well, I'm part of the principal investigators of a project strengthening legal frameworks for justice and accountability in Kenya and Tanzania. We are 4 principal investigators, and we are proudly sponsored by Mawazo. The background of this project is the rising cases of femicide in Kenya and the world over, even in Tanzania. Now we are concerned, first as women, and second as people who are thirsty for legal reforms, people who are thirsty for justice and accountability, and people who want to see every last girl child live to their full potential. Our study was based on 7 themes: the nature and patterns of femicide. We wanted to understand what is the context in which femicide occurs, what are the triggers to femicide, and are there different types of femicide that we can analyze from our findings? You know, because when you hear about these stories of femicide, you hear different scenarios, different contexts, different reasons, different triggers, and that was one of our interests.
Ukicheki hapa chini nimeanza na thorns, na ina symbolize the discomfort, alafu pia at the same time pia ina symbolize society at large. Kuna a lot of different triggers, kuna a lot of different things zenye zina enable femicide to happen kwa society.
From the case law analysis that we conducted, it was very clear that this was not the first time this person was experiencing GBV. They had been beaten, they had been abused, they had gone through tech-facilitated GBV and all this.
The sun here is to represent the happiness that women hold. And I think if you can attest to when women are together, we are very, very happy people.
Kuna hii part ina show like love hearts and whatnot, so naweza sema hii ni part ya life. So life yenye tuna go through, society bado pia at the same time, najua like not show love, tuna share some love here and there, but then at the end of the day, unapata as much as tuna share love na tuna give love, kuna wase wengine hawaicheki, unajua like wanailipisha na violence.
This is to represent cyberbullying, because anytime you come forward with your story of someone has been killed, someone has been beaten, hurt by the other gender, people end up bullying you. I don't know if you guys have seen the story of Danish deception. And have you seen how crazy the comments are? Yeah, some people are for, we empathize with you. Other people are like, you should have known better because, oh my God, you're just glamorizing men. And I'm like, guys, this person is hurting. Yeah, she's come forward, brave enough to tell her story, and we are still putting her down. Even in person, it's so difficult to say your story because you're still being bullied about it. The "what was she wearing" is a very common phrase we hear every time. Things like my no means no, and for sure let that be what it is. If I do say no, it means no. Silence also means that I have not okayed this situation here.
We're also looking at the legal and policy frameworks. You know, well, in Kenya, we do not have any law that criminalizes femicide. And you know what? That is the first hindrance to justice.
How does our family prove a murder that we were not present at? We've talked about femicide happening in intimate spaces. So probably it was the victim and the perpetrator. So how then do we give evidence beyond that room? And those are some of the struggles that maybe could be captured by the media to give full sample of what happens when we report a femicide case.
We are asking for femicide to be treated as a different, as a separate, as a distinct crime. And that is the call of this team. Because when femicide is classified under the penal code, while we know that femicide has gender intentions, what are we trying to say?
The university is the highest victim of femicide. We suffer, but we are suffering silently. There is a lot of murder within our institutions of higher learning. Our own institution, Kenyatta University, has not been spared. Jomo Kenyatta has not been spared. Even Sharon was a university student. Last year, but one, we had 2 actually killed within the same week. It is sad as we sit here. Even when we lose a student, for instance, at the university, we have not had anyone from the same institution except the small people like us who are also talking about it. Oh, we are suffering. And even when I say small people like us, I mean a department of gender studies. We have never had the head of the institution or heads of these institutions. We have an association that reads the universities in Kenya. We have never had anything, somebody come strong and say, look, we as the vice chancellors, or we as the chancellors of these universities, or the ministry in charge of higher institutions make a bold statement.
Our third theme was justice and accountability. And here, we are looking at the investigation and the prosecution processes. How do they happen? Right from the police, the response of the police, to sentencing of the perpetrators. How does it happen?
This is an hourglass to show how long it takes in court. You can bring your case forward, but it can take forever to get justice.
And you know what? It was too emotional to analyze the cases that have already gone through our justice system and find out that the sentencing to us is lenient.
So then when we come down here, we're talking about, we're writing a letter to the government to tell them that they need to change their policies on gender-based violence because it's different. It's different than manslaughter, it's different than murder, all those, it's not the same crime. Hii inakaa kama Mariamu, that women don't feel safe around police. Yeah, when you go to those stations, the gender desks, you find it's in a corner where there are still other people, there's no privacy in those places. Then there's this issue of ushago, the land is so vast. When there's violence somewhere in your home, the distance between you and the next police person is so far. Or the people at home start telling you, ama muone tu with your abuser. Nyumba kumi doesn't really work well back home. You're being told you need to find your ID. Na labda uko una ID. The next station is so far, you've trekked. By the time you're telling your story, it's been 3 years and now there's no point anymore. Who's going to arrest who? The community covers the person who has perpetrated.
As law enforcers, we have a commitment to ensure that our women receive the very justice.
Hii ni classic symbol ya karao. Kuna hiyo part ya authority na sheria.
We have been able to identify 3 main problems that probably make women not to receive the full justice. Right now, the law treats femicide as murder. As police officers, when we receive a case of femicide, we investigate it as murder. And therefore, we ignore the history of violence, the history of stalking. And therefore, the police officers are not compelled to look at the history. We just investigate the way we have received it. And what happens if you come to us and maybe want to know the data of women or the numbers of women who have died because of femicide. You may not be able to get the correct data. This is because we treat femicide as murder.
But saa kuna venye ukicheki fiti pia, hii kofia yake, kuna venye makarao kiva kofia, wana nikaa imefunika macho kidesign. So nikaa ko blind to whatever ills zina happen kwa society at large. Alafu kidogo kuna pia ka thought bubble hapa hivi na plan kuongeza a few other things zenye zina hinder tu justice ku happen, vitu zina aid pia crime na vitu kaa hizo. So hapo na plan kuweka do because makarao wanakuwa wameka do mbele.
And therefore the question comes, should we have a femicide law?
Our fourth theme is institutional and community responses. We learned that first respondents to these femicide cases are usually the community. But then also we are asking ourselves, how are other structures that are supposed to respond to these issues, how do they respond? For example, do the victims get psychosocial support? Do these people, like the police, also get psychosocial support? What about the judiciary system who handles this case? It's not interesting to listen to femicide issues from morning to evening. You also need psychosocial support. What about the influence of religion and culture in responding to this? Because we have had that some people are told, just go and settle it at home, kienyeji as we say in Kenya.
And of course the social norms of both the perpetrators, the community, and the officer listening to that case. Sometimes we come in with our own socialization. And we've had instances of somebody saying that a victim or a survivor came into the police station and they were told to go and sort it at home because that's a family issue.
At this point, umanze kuna venye ana try to get silenced, kunyanyaswa, acha niseme hivyo. Hii mkono ya red, hii part ya face pain na symbolize that. Haizi express vifiti, haizi bonga, like haizi voice yake kidogo haizi sikika vifiti. Alafu pia kidogo ukicheki macho zake haziko clear, hazina that sparkle, zisha lose your sparkle, so pia na show life tu venye iko like side ya wadem compared to majamaa.
We have received reports that sometimes when survivors report cases of SGBV, our officers sometimes show insensitive attitude. And sometimes they take slow action, or worst of all, they take bribes. So when the survivors are treated in such a way, sometimes they tend to withdraw. And when they withdraw, it means that they are not going to get justice.
We're also looking at the social and cultural norms that serve as a barrier to justice. For example, what is the role of women? What is the place of women? And also, we found out that victims are being blamed. You know, you had worn a short skirt and that's why you were raped, or, you know. So victims are being blamed for femicide.
The "what was she wearing" is a very common phrase we hear every time. So one of the things we've seen in the study is the home is the most dangerous place for a woman, for a girl. Next we can see this proposal. The story goes is that it's so happy that you're proposed to online. People are seeing that you guys are getting married. No sooner have you been public about your proposal, and the next step is the guy is beating you down in your own home, and you're not able to speak out about it. This is supposed to represent toxic masculinity, and we have a quote saying, "Spare the rod, spoil the marriage," because, you know, we are being beaten in our own relationships.
We're also looking at prevention and intervention. So what are the existing prevention strategies that have been put in place to ensure that femicide does not occur or reoccur, or to mitigate? Of course, we have gender desks in our police stations in Kenya, but one major finding from this research is that we need gender unit. Just like the anti-traffic unit, we need a gender unit. That is the first line of response whenever these victims report their cases. While we appreciate the effectiveness of the current strategies, we need better strategies. We need better interventions that will make the victims feel like they have been listened to, they have been attended to. There was a mention that even the courts that where these victims go to, they have been labeled koti za ngono, something like that, you know. Who would want to go to koti ya ngono? We need straight systems that call femicide for what it is and support victims to the maximum. We also have data and evidence. We really appreciate the police unit because the evidence collected from femicide cases, it's worth noting that they have done a good job. The evidence is very clear. But now the challenge is we have a very high evidentiary threshold.
Another gap that we noted is the evidence problem. When we don't handle the evidence so well, we are not going to succeed in court.
So everything has to be perfect. Like, you cannot rely on little evidences. If there is a gap, then the case is trashed.
We do not have enough labs to do forensic analysis. Sometimes our officers need to walk long distances, maybe from Mombasa to Nairobi, or maybe from Kisumu to Nairobi, just to get results from the lab, so that they can use it in court. We need our government to build more laboratories and also improve the tools of analysis from our DCI officers. We need to build 4 new regional forensic labs outside Nairobi so as to decentralize forensic analysis. We also need to upgrade our digital tools to handle complex evidence from phones and internet.
Sika wasanii kuna venye si uji express differently na different mediums. So unaweza sema wewe kama msanii kuna venye unaweza tumia whatever medium yenye uko poa in kuji express ama pia kubonga tu about Kenya ina happen kwa society at large. Unajua like kuna wasee wengi sana wako voiceless na kama unaweza tumia art yako ama style yako ku voice for the voiceless, inaweza kuwa fiti pia.
I'm disturbed by the number of women that have been stabbed. Not by strangers, but by people who have tapped their backs. Those that understand the weight that they carry on their backs.
No one deserves to die from femicide.
These women have been stabbed with bottles, knives, fingers that point to them as the problem, mouths that have the audacity to say things like, "Didn't she take herself to his house?" No, she didn't. She was killed in her mother's house. She was killed in the hostel. She was killed at work. She was killed in her own house. She was killed on her way to work. Ni saa 3 mchana. Nimepanda matatu, nimekava my tattoos. I feel safe. But that's not the case. Niko almost kuwa na kesi na huyu conductor. Ananitaka. Nikikataa.
Ananiita taka. Ananiita taka.
See where I come from. They say nights are not safe for women. But I have experienced dark things in day broad light. Where I come from, they say men protect women. But the things these men have done to me and women that I know, I can't say in day broad light. Where I come from, Alumea matwekete tanyamo. Nyamushiage daka. Wera waona ugotega iretu. Ateginya motimi ya dagetiga shana shake shaka iretu. Moshie na maithe mao.
Oh, check it. She's a woman.
Tell me.
She's human. Beautiful she is. Yes. With the flaws and her love. Aki ya nani. Hii safari haijakuwa easy. Kudhulumiwa, kudharauliwa na kuuliwa, yeah. Haki ya nani? Oh, yeah. Oh, no. Nasema haki ya nani? Mbona mnaua wanawake? Oh, no.
It's where I come from. Women are being killed in countries that promise justice but deliver silence. Countries that deliver silence. As you're going out there, carry something called refusal. We are refusing to shrink. We are refusing to surrender. And we are refusing to shut up. And the next time we are saying where we come from, we hope that will be a better society. And it's upon me and it's upon you as you're going out there. Hold people accountable. Call them out. So maybe that's just a little bit homework when you're going out there. Let's do better. Amani aje?
Yes. She's a woman. She's human. Beautiful she is. Yes. With the flaws and her love. Haki ya nani? Hii safari haijakuwa easy. Kudhulumiwa, kudharauliwa na kuuliwa, yeah, yeah, yeah. Haki ya nani? Haki ya nani? Mbona mnaua wanawake? Oh, no, 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 stop it. Haki ya nani? Haki ya nani? Mbona mnaua wanawake? Oh, no, 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 turn it, sing that. Haki ya nani? Haki ya nani? Yo, yo. Mbona mnaua wanawake? Oh, no, 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 no. Haki ya nani? Haki ya nani?
Ask that question.
Mbona mnaua wanawake? Oh, no, 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 no. Na, 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 yeah.
Can we say stop femicide?
Stop femicide.
Again?
Stop femicide.
One more time.